The mysterious death of Aileen Faye Conway in 1986 is one of those cases that remains steeped in unanswered questions and troubling inconsistencies. On the surface, it was classified as an accident, a tragic car fire that claimed the life of a 50-year-old mother and homemaker. But for those who have studied the details, including her family and members of the true crime community, the circumstances surrounding her death suggest that it was anything but straightforward. More than 3 decades later, the case of Aileen Conway continues to haunt Ardmore, Oklahoma, and serves as a chilling example of how some cases can fall into ambiguity, leaving families without the closure they desperately need. Aileen Conway was living in Ardmore with her husband, a respected doctor, and their children. Friends described her as warm, sociable, and devoted to her family. She was a familiar face in the community, and by all accounts, she seemed to live a comfortable life. Yet like many families, the Conways had their share of difficulties. Some reports indicated that Aileen struggled with depression and feelings of isolation, while others suggested her marriage may not have been as idyllic as it appeared from the outside. On December 12, 1986, Aileen's burned-out car was discovered in a remote field near her home. Inside, her body was found charred beyond recognition. Investigators initially believed her death to be the result of a tragic accident. The car fire was intense, and with no immediate evidence of foul play, the case was quickly written off as a fatal mishap. But as the details emerged, the narrative became more complicated. For one, the location of the car raised questions. It was found in an area that Aileen was not known to frequent, and the path it took to arrive there was unclear. Even more troubling was the fact that the fire burned so hot and so thoroughly that many began to question whether it could have been purely accidental. Authorities at first leaned toward accidental causes, with some suggesting that Aileen may have committed suicide. They pointed to her alleged struggles with depression as possible motive. Yet there were glaring issues with this conclusion. For one, no suicide note was ever found, nor had Aileen expressed to close friends or family any intention of taking her life. Furthermore, the fire itself was suspicious. Automotive experts and investigators noted that cars do not usually burn in the way hers had without some external accelerant or unusual circumstance. Compounding the suspicion was the fact that Aileen's husband, the doctor, reported her missing only after the car was discovered, raising eyebrows among locals. Some theorized that her marriage may have been troubled, and this fueled speculation about whether her death was truly accidental. In the years since, conflicting reports and theories have made the Conway case even more confusing. Some accounts suggest that Aileen's death could have been a homicide staged to look like an accident. Others believe it was a suicide that her family and community could not accept. The fact that the case was never fully pursued as a homicide investigation left lingering doubts. Evidence that might have been useful was lost or overlooked. As time went on, the possibility of finding conclusive answers diminished. Several details continue to trouble those who look at the Conway case. One is the intensity of the fire. Experts have argued that while car fires are not unusual, the complete destruction of the vehicle in this case was uncommon. Another is the absence of a clear reason for Aileen to have driven to the location where the car was found. Some reports also suggest that Aileen's personal items inside the car were inconsistently damaged by the fire, adding to suspicions about whether the blaze was natural or set deliberately. Finally, the speed with which authorities leaned toward accident or suicide frustrated her family and fueled accusations that the investigation was insufficient. 3 primary theories have circulated about what really happened to Aileen Conway. The first is that it was an accident. In this version, Aileen may have driven off the road, and the car somehow ignited, leading to her death. But this theory struggles to explain the unusual intensity of the fire. The second theory is suicide. Supporters of this explanation point to the possibility that Aileen may have been battling inner demons unknown to most. Without a note or other definitive evidence, however, this remains speculative. The third theory is homicide. Was Aileen lured or forced into that car? Was the fire set intentionally to cover up evidence of foul play? And if so, who would have wanted her dead? Some point to her husband, others to unknown individuals in her circle. With no suspects and no further evidence, this theory remains purely circumstantial. The death of Aileen Conway in 1986 remains one of Oklahoma's most enduring mysteries. Whether accident, suicide, or murder, the circumstances are troubling enough to keep people asking questions decades later.